I've been moving between prisons and jails since I was 17. I thought I had seen everything: guards getting hurt by gang members, fights between gangs, people escaping, and terrible things happening. Even now, I still have bad dreams about it all. One day, a guard named She yelled, "McDonald 40,222. I quickly got off my thin mattress, breathing in the stale air. I looked through the bars and saw Officer She. He was a big man who was always loud and lazy. I once saw a gang member punch him right in the nose. It was a funny sight, watching She fall to the floor, crying and screaming as other guards grabbed the bad guy. "Yeah," I said. She gave me a piece of paper. His eyes were gray and empty. "Congratulations, you're being moved. Pack your things, today is your last day at Springfield Correctional Center." I didn't feel happy about moving. Sec was a tough place. The food was awful and always cold. It smelled like bleach and chemicals, and at night it was so chilly that I would wake up shivering on my thin sheet. The building was almost 100 years old, and it was amazing it still worked. But I wasn't excited to leave because I had friends here and knew how things worked. I didn't have to worry about getting hurt in the showers. Like they say, it's better the devil you know than the one you don't. The next evening, they took me out of my cell with all my stuff. Everything fit into a clear trash bag. Prison clothes, toothpaste, a toothbrush, deodorant, a Bible, sandals, and a radio. The bag made me feel very light as it slapped against my leg. "Good luck, friend." Josh, a crazy guy named Alvin, shouted from his cell as I walked down the dark hallway. "Take care, man. I hope we meet again outside." I waved, knowing I would probably never see anyone here again. I hadn't seen my family in over 5 years. No one visited me, wrote letters, sent money, or books to read. We're all born alone, and we all die alone, I thought as She walked beside me. He was breathing hard, like he just ran a long race. His face was red from drinking, and his eyes squinted a lot. But there was a spark of something smart and kind behind his ugly face. "Well, amigo," She said slowly, "I got assigned to go with you. I'll be your ride along, buddy. Excited?" I gave him a small smile. "There are worse people than you here, She," I replied. "Far worse." I put on my bright orange jumpsuit and got on the prison bus. To my surprise, the back was almost empty. Only one other prisoner was there. She sat next to us to watch us. We were handcuffed and ankle cuffed together by a chain. I looked at the other prisoner, a black man with a shaved head. He didn't have any hair, not even eyebrows, except for his eyelashes. "Sue," he said. I nodded. We sat in silence as She plopped down heavily on the bench between us, the seat creaking like an old man. "So, what do you know about this place, She?" I asked. He drank half a bottle of Coke and sighed deeply. "I don't know much," he admitted. "It's supposed to be brand new. They asked for people who meet certain criteria." "What does that mean?" the black guy asked. She looked serious. "Come on, Timmy. You know what I mean, hardened criminals. People with long records who go to prisons like others go to beaches." I laughed. "There are much worse people than me in prison," I said. "But they asked for no murderers or gang members. Maybe it's a new government program. They call it an experimental prison." "What about me?" Timmy asked. She knew what he meant. "You're not a murderer, Timmy," he said, smiling slightly. "You never will. There was that time my girlfriend got me to take acid with her. She killed her parents, and then we ran away," Timmy said sadly, looking like he was remembering something painful. "You were never charged with being an accessory, so it doesn't count," she replied. "Oh, It counts, Timmy. He continued. Everything counts in life. If I've learned anything in 36 years, it's that you can never truly escape what you've done, good or bad. From the prison van, I couldn't see much. There was a small, strong window in the back doors, but it only showed a little of what was behind us. I saw dark forest stretching to the horizon over rolling hills. We drove for hours, the three of us talking about everything from sports to politics to recent violent events at SEC. Suddenly, the van stopped. I looked out the back window and saw more endless trees. No houses or cars were anywhere. "This place is a ghost town," I said. She nodded. "Yeah, it's dead as Frank Sinatra around here." He laughed high-pitched at his own joke. "This area used to have lots of coal mines, but when the mines closed and people lost their jobs, they left. My grandfather was a coal miner. Good place to build a prison, huh?" Timmy asked. Before I could answer, a loud alarm rang. I heard something big moving, probably the gate opening. Then we were inside. I saw guard towers and lots of razor wire as the van pulled into an open garage. It was dark, and the garage doors slowly closed behind us. "Let's get you boys inside so I can take off your handcuffs and everything," she said, pulling out a flashlight from his belt. He led us through the dark garage. The dim light made shadows move like creepy hands. I saw strange objects that looked like old torture tools. "What is this place?" I whispered. My voice echoed loudly against the cold concrete walls. "Those look like torture devices on that table, I said. "I think those are thumb screws, and that might be a pair of anguish." I pointed to a pear-shaped tool with 3 sharp blades that looked deadly. It sat on a dusty shelf. The handle had springs attached. This tool could be forced into someone's body, and when the springs were triggered, it would tear their flesh apart, making a big, bloody hole. "How do you know so much about this?" she asked, looking at me strangely. He kept fiddling with the flashlight, looking for a way out. I looked back at the car and saw the driver sitting there, motionless like a mannequin. "I've read a few books," I said. Timmy interrupted. "I see a little red light glowing under that door." She shined his flashlight on the spot Timmy was pointing to. It was an old black door with cracks and splinters down the middle. In silver letters, it said, "Entrance to North Frost Penitentiary." "Hello," she called towards the door. We moved forward, our steps clicking against the steel chains. She reached for the old crystal doorknob. Timmy and I stood next to a dusty brazen bull, its bronze mouth wide open like it was roaring silently at us. She opened the door, and bright red light flooded into the garage. Dark glass covered the back wall. Next to the window was a speaker button. I looked to my right and saw a big sign on the wall. It said, "Asterix, Asterix rules for personal conduct at North Frost. Asterix, Asterix, the Kosos without faces don't work here, and we don't know who they are. If you see one, press one of the buttons labeled Emergency Dispatch scattered around the complex. When the red emergency lights come on, hide until they shut off. Do not go into the medical ward for any reason. The warden roams the prison every night at 3:33 a.m. looking for human meat. Don't let him catch you." "What, is this a joke?" Timmy asked, his face turning angry. "Ah, well." She rubbed the back of his neck, looking like a sad child who lost his parents. "I've never been here before, but this is all pretty strange." Suddenly, a loud buzzing came from the back of the room. A harsh intercom voice said, "Please remove their chains and direct them through the door on the left. Your transfer will then be complete." She sighed with relief. "Good," he grunted. "This place gives me the creeps, bro. You can't leave us here." Timmy protested. What is this place? Where is everyone?" Why is there a room filled with bloody old torture tools next to the garage? She raised his hands. I'm sorry, son, but I have orders. I'm just a messenger here. I was told to transfer you here, and that's what I've done. He fumbled with his belt and unlocked our handcuffs and ankle cuffs. I stretched and rubbed my wrists. I was glad to be out of those tight restraints. Thanks for everything, I said, grabbing my light garbage bag and heading for the door on the left labeled General Population. But when we went through and the door slammed shut behind us, I found a hallway filled with more red emergency lights shining down. I felt a shiver run through me. I remembered the weird rules about red lights. My mind raced until I remembered. Hide. A man screamed up ahead, his voice full of pain and fear. The hallway split into right and left, and I couldn't see anyone. Timmy and I stopped. Dude, screw this, Timmy said, turning to run back to the door we came through. He tried to open it, but it was locked. The scream came again, louder and closer, but then it stopped suddenly. I heard someone gasping for air, like a man with a cut throat trying to breathe. Then everything was silent again. The grey concrete floor had arrows pointing forward. There were no doors here, nowhere to hide. Timmy and I slowly moved forward. At the intersection, we saw a dead man in a brown uniform. His eyes were wide open, staring at the ceiling with fear. Deep cuts were on his back, arms, and chest. His throat was cut open, and a pool of blood surrounded his body. I saw a dark shadow at the end of the hallway on the right. It looks like a shadow. I whispered to Timmy, pointing. We decided to go left right away. My heart was pounding like a drum. I felt like a soldier in a dangerous war zone, waiting for an attack. The hallway to the left had some doors. I ran forward quietly with Timmy close by my side. I read the first door, medical ward. Oh no, I whispered. I went to the second door and heard light footsteps behind me. Turning around, I saw a nightmare creature sneaking up on us in the red emergency light. Its skin was black and shiny like a centipede's. It looked like a hairless werewolf, towering over us with bone-white eyes and sharp, dagger-like claws. Its face was almost like a reptile's, with small snake-like nostrils and a jaw that hung low, showing rows of blood-soaked fangs. It let out a low, gurgling growl from its chest. With a burst of fear, I pushed through the second door without reading the sign. Timmy was right behind me. I heard him scream as he fell into me. We ended up in a prison dormitory, and we weren't alone. As I hit the ground, I saw a white face peeking out from behind a bunk bed. The man hiding there saw the monster behind us and got up, screaming and running away. The creature growled and chased him with powerful steps. It grabbed the man by the neck and twisted his head around. It lifted his dead body to its huge mouth and bit his head off in one strong bite. Get me out of here, man, please, Timmy whispered as I pulled him back into the hallway. I looked around and saw another werewolf-like creature running down the hallway, chasing a man in a prison jumpsuit. I had no choice. I pulled Timmy towards the door labeled medical ward. The rusty hinges creaked as it opened. We went inside to hide. Maybe there's something here to help you, I said, leading Timmy down the short hallway to a room with sing beds. I didn't know why the rules said to avoid this place. It looked completely empty. On the back wall, I saw a glass cabinet filled with bandages, rubbing alcohol, band-aids, and other first aid stuff. I ran towards it. Timmy limped after me, still groaning. God damn, I think those claws went deep into my bones, he said. It's going to be okay, I replied, pulling out antiseptic and bandages. It could have been much worse. Suddenly, I heard a giggling sound from under one of the beds. Timmy and I froze. Two rotten hands reached out, dragging the body of a little girl behind them. She had black stitches all over her face, hands, and arms. Dark, thick blood dripped from her wounds. She wore a dirty hospital gown and had no eyes. Her empty eye sockets stared back at me like dark holes. As she stood up, her giggles turned into loud, scary laughter, like someone dying. Then she ran at me. I saw a shiny scalpel in her small hand. "No!" I screamed, raising my hands to protect myself. The scalpel came down and sliced across my palm, cutting deep. A cold, burning pain shot up my arm. I tried not to scream. Just then, the red emergency lights turned off, and bright fluorescent lights flickered on, flashing quickly. Timmy ran forward and tackled the undead girl, but I saw more small hands reaching out from under the bed's hands with saws and tiny bugs crawling on them. I could see the bones of their hands through the dead skin. I ran to Timmy, grabbing him and pulling him up. "Time to go now," I shouted, pulling him forward as more undead boys and girls rose up, holding sharp knives and tools in their hands. I felt a sharp pain in my leg. Looking down, I saw a knife sticking out of my thigh. A little boy's face with empty eyes stared up at me, grinning like a skull. I collapsed to the ground. We were surrounded. I prayed to God, knowing we were going to die. I hoped He would forgive me for my mistakes because I thought I was going to the afterlife soon. With a loud cry of pain, I pulled the knife out of my leg and turned it on the attacker. Then, a gunshot rang out. The nearest girl's head exploded into pieces of bone and dead bugs. I looked up and saw she standing at the door with his pistol raised. "Come on," he screamed. "Come on, you idiots, let's go." Timmy and I didn't need any more help as she kept shooting the undead monsters. We limped and scrambled towards him, my leg hurting with every step. We got out of the medical ward, bruised and hurt but still alive. "Why'd you come back, she?" I asked, breathing heavily. She looked frantic. When I reached the car, the driver was dead, his throat was ripped out or something. "I grabbed his keys and came back for you too," she explained. I was amazed. I never thought she would risk his life to save some bad inmates. "So, what's the plan?" Timmy asked, sweating and looking scared. "How are we getting out of here without dying?" She shrugged. "The door was locked behind us when we came in," I said. "Unless we can break it and get back to thee." We saw buttons labeled "Emergency Dispatch" under red emergency signs. I wondered if we could get help through them. "Halt!" Someone shouted from behind us. I turned around and saw a man in a black correctional officer's uniform running toward us. His hand was on a radio hanging from his belt, but something was wrong. As he got closer, I saw he had no face, just smooth white skin with no hair or features. He spoke again, his voice sounding all around us. "You must report to the medical ward. We do not allow injured people in the hallways." "No, we're fine," she said, smiling. "See, buddy, I work for the doc too," he said, pointing to an ID badge on his chest. The faceless man raised his radio to his lips. "We have resistance near dormitory 1, he said into the radio. Before we could do anything, she ran forward and knocked the radio out of his hand. The faceless man stood straight and pulled out his pistol, pointing it at She's chest. He fired, and I saw She's chest explode into a bloody mess. "No, damn it," Timmy yelled, running forward. I saw a shiny scalpel in his hand and realized he had taken one from the undead she had killed earlier. As the faceless man turned to aim at Timmy, Timmy rushed at him and stabbed the scalpel deep into his neck. They both fell down, Timmy on top of the faceless man. His weight pushed the scalpel further into the smooth skin. Blood, dark like soot, splattered everywhere. The gun went off, the bullet missing Timmy and hitting the ceiling instead. The faceless man made gurgling sounds, his body still. I grabbed Timmy. "Get the guns," I said. "They're both dead. We need the..." He nodded and grabbed the faceless man's gun, taking an extra magazine from his belt. I did the same with She's gun and magazine. I pressed the button labeled Emergency Dispatch as more faceless men appeared far down the hallway. Then we ran as fast as we could from that dark corridor. But we were both hurt, so it wasn't very fast. I was just glad to be alive. We wandered around the prison, staying away from the faceless Kosos whenever we saw them patrolling the hallways. They would talk on radios, their voices sounding all around them instead of coming from their heads, which was really creepy and scary. A few times, I saw men in black SWAT suits with automatic rifles shooting the fake Kos. I wondered if this was the emergency dispatch. Timmy and I avoided them too, and we stayed away whenever we heard gunfire. We passed cells with mummified corpses hanging from the ceiling. We went by dormitories where strange werewolf-like creatures had killed people, leaving rotting, smelly bodies on the floors like dead animals. Sometimes I saw a pale face hiding somewhere, but Timmy and I kept moving forward, looking for a way out. We found ourselves in a huge gymnasium. We sat down to rest for a few minutes when we heard a loud, scary roar from the hallway, a mix of strange, inhuman sounds. Timmy and I quickly sat up as a decapitated body flew into the gym, followed by a terrifying creature from hell. The body hit the concrete wall with a sickening thud. The warden stood there, 10 feet tall, wearing a black correctional officer's uniform and a leather visor cap. His face looked like it had no flesh, just a thick layer of bone with 2 reptilian eyes behind slitted pupils. He hissed, a forked tongue sticking out of his huge mouth. His fingers were like sharp, bony daggers. A smell of old leather and blood came from his body. I screamed, raising my pistol and firing at his head. The first shot blew off his visor cap, showing his hairless reptilian skull underneath. But the bullet only hit the top of his skull. He ran at us with powerful steps, covering the distance in seconds. Timmy and I fired our guns as fast as we could. When he was just a few feet away, he lunged at Timmy like a freight train hitting a car. Timmy's body flew and smashed against the back wall with the sound of bones breaking. I quickly loaded another magazine into my pistol as the warden turned to me. We hit him. I saw one of his eyes explode into gore and thick, sticky fluid. His head was bleeding badly. I raised my gun again, aiming for the same eye, and fired. The warden slapped his hand against his face, like he forgot something, and fell to the floor. I ran forward, pressing the pistol against his ruined eye and emptying the clip. By the end, he wasn't moving anymore. "Oh God," I said, walking over to Timmy. I saw his broken legs, his spine snapped, and his ribs shattered. He coughed up blood. "I'm sorry, Timmy. I really..." His head nodded slightly as he died, giving a final gasp before lying still. I found a ring of keys on the warden's body. Excited, I ran downstairs and tried the locked door. It worked. I went to the van, pulled out the dead driver, and started it. After smashing through the garage door, I drove through the gate. The prison van was badly damaged, but it got me far enough away before the engine stopped. I don't know what kind of prison that was, but I hope I never see that hellscape again.